Okay, in this video, I'm going to go through a very simple automated lead response workflow. So what this will look like is, firstly, the lead will submit a form. So this might be a form on your website. And then from there, the details or the data submitted within that form will then populate your CRM. So in this case, the CRM is just going to be a nice, simple, easy Google Sheets spreadsheet. And then from there, that's where we'll kick off the automation workflow. So what we'll add is a optional wait time. So because we're going to be responding to the lead, we want to make it as natural and as human as possible and make it sound and seem like it's come from yourself. So you don't have to add this step, but in this case, we're going to add just a small step where we'll wait a couple of minutes before sending out the email to the lead. And from there, we'll have the AI generate an email. And again, this would be in your tone, your voice, and it'll be personalized to the lead that has come through. And then from there, we want to assign a value to the lead. So whether that lead be a high, a medium, or a low priority lead. And then from there, we want to send out that email to the lead, or again, we can create a draft if you want to add that buffer step. And from there, we're going to then update the Google Sheet or your CRM. So in this case, the Google Sheet. And then we want to notify your team. So we want to let them know anytime a new lead has come through or anytime a high priority lead has come through. And then let's move myself out of the way here. We want to add a perplexity step. So what perplexity will do is it will do a bit of a background on the lead. So gather any research or background that will then populate into, again, your CRM, but in this case, the Google spreadsheet. So let's jump straight into N8N and start building this out. All right, so here we are in N8N. Now, before I start building this out, let's just go have a look at so what I've set up is I've set up this form submission. So again, this can be your form that's on the website. As I said, in this use case, we're just going to use a very simple Google form. So when I paste this out, hang on, what it would do is it then connects with this CRM. So this is our Google Sheet where all the data will be populated against. So let's just go ahead and start filling this out. So Elon Musk, company is Tesla, and interested in AI called agents. And let me just paste in the email now, 1 second. So when I paste the email in, and then let's submit the form, and then you should see that this automatically populates against your Google Sheet or your CRM. So let's jump back into N8N. And then first step we're going to do is we're going to add, so we've got Google Sheets, where are we now? Okay. And then we're just going to click down these actions. Now for this example here, we're just going to get rows in sheet. And then later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to update it to on row added. So this means that when a new row or a new data, a new lead gets populated in the CRM or the Google Sheet, this triggers the workflow. So let's get rows in sheet, and then we're going to connect up the Google Sheet. So demo lead, and then the form response. So now we'll go back to your canvas here, and then the next thing I'm going to do is add a wait step. Now this is, you don't need to add this. As I said, this is more so to make it that bit more human or natural. So we're going to add a wait step. So rather than person getting emailed or notified right away, it seems a bit automated. So we want to add this brief step just to make it a bit more realistic. I'm just going to put 1 minute for this example. Again, you can set this to whatever you like. There, 1 minute. And then let's go back here. The next thing we're going to do is add your AI step. So open AI and then message a model. You're going to connect up your OpenAI account if you haven't already. And we want to select. So again, many different options here you can select from in terms of models. In this case, I'm just going to select 4L Mini, and then we're going to change it to a system prompt. And then the prompt we're going to put in, I'm just going to pause and paste it in. Now, while I paste the prompt in, I'm just going to execute previous node here, just so we have some data to work with. And I've waited the minute, so this just took a minute to load with that buffer step that the wait node that we added. So that's fine. So what we're going to do, we add expression here. We're going to open this out. And then I'm going to paste in the prompt, and let's just quickly go over the prompt. So what I've done is I've given an instruction to who the AI is. So in this case, it's Jane, our customer success. We have a description for the agent. We have some instructions in terms of be friendly and be personalized. We have some fields here. So these fields I'm just going to map now. So we're going to take the first name, and then we're going to take the last name. Okay, let me just add a gap in between there. Actually, do you know what? Let's just stick with the first name. Last name is irrelevant with the email. And then we're going to throw the email here, and the services that interested in, we're just going to take that here. And then what we have here is we want to break it up that we get a subject, we get the body, and then we get the tag. So this is ranking the priority of the lead. And then we have a bit of a description in terms of what is classified as high, medium, and low value. And then we have some, again, additional requirements or rules in terms of what not to do. And then what I like to do is add some examples below. So you'll see that my prompts tend to be quite detailed, and the more context that you give AI, the better the input that you give it, the better the output that you receive. So it's always good to put some examples in there. Again, if you want this to sound very similar to your tone, put in some email examples that you have. So once we have that, I'm going to just go out here and we're going to test this step. So test here. Now, what I forgot to do is you want to switch this on here. So you want to enable simplify output and enable the output content as JSON. So let me test this step again. Okay, perfect. Now, the reason this is important is because we want to have this broken up in terms of having the subject for the email, the body for the email, and then the tag if it's a high, medium, or low priority lead. Next up, let's go back to the canvas here. And then what we want to do next is we want to send out that email. We want to also update your Google Sheet. And then we also want to notify your team. So let's start with Gmail. So we want to send the email, so send a message. And this is pretty simple. So we're just going to start mapping the fields. So the person we want to email is the lead that's come through. And then the subject is, again, so we broke this up in the last step. So we're just going to map the subject here. And then we're going to put the email type as text. And then we're just going to put the body in here. Now, also what you want to add is you want to disable this. So basically what this means is you don't want your emails to go out and then at the end say this is powered by N8N. So important to add this step. So let's test this out so we can see this is sent. I'm going to jump over to the email now and let's just see what that looks like. Here we go. So we can see that the email has just been sent out. So we have the subject line, a nice personalized email, and then signed off here. So we're going to go back to N8N, just a moment. Okay, so back in N8N here. As I said, you don't necessarily have to send this out right away. You can instead set this step to create a draft if you want to have that human in the loop aspect. What I would recommend is to start off, maybe have it as creating a draft, just so that if there are any errors, you are overseeing everything. And then once you're happy and confident, you can then set it to sending all the emails out. The next thing we want to do is we want to update the row here in Google Sheet. So we're going to go to Google Sheet. Hang on. Google Sheet. And then we're going to update a row in the sheet. Again, we're going to select the document, the sheet or the tab. And then we're going to match each column by the email. So the email is the identifier. The reason we want to do this is we don't want to do it by the name, because let's say you might have some leads that have the same name. So we want to match it by the email. So the email is the identifier. And then we're going to map the relevant steps here. So let's just delete what's not necessary. We have the company. We have what they're interested in. Background, we're going to delete for now. And then what we are going to add is, hang on. Yeah. So the priority level. So the tag here, we're just going to match that. And then the email that is being identified here is, again, map up the email. Now let's test this step out. And what we'll be expecting here is that in the Google Sheet, it will update with the status of being a high value lead. So let's test this step. Okay, so it says it's been successfully executed. So let's go to the sheet and then we can see the priority level has been added here as well. Let's go back to N8N. And then the next thing we're going to do, so we'll go back to the canvas. And then here we want to notify the team anytime a lead comes in. So the next step we're going to add is Slack. Now we communicate internally with Slack. Again, you can, if you use Microsoft Teams, you might want to notify your team via email, whatever preference you have. In this case, as I said, we're going to send a Slack message. Now you can send this to a particular channel, to a particular individual. In this case, I'm just going to send it to myself. So we're going to go down to send a message and then you're going to connect up your Slack channel. We're going to send a message, in this case, to a user, and then the user is here, it's myself, and the text is straightforward enough. So what we'll do is new lead alert. We're going to put the name, we're going to put the company, we're going to put the priority, and we're going to put what they're interested in. And then you just basically go and match these fields. So let's take, yeah, okay, let's do this again. So let me start this a bit more neater now. So let us take the name. So first name, yeah, let me do this again. The first name, a space, and then the last name, and then the company. Just gonna put the company in, and the priority level, here we are, sorry. And then we're also gonna put in what they're interested in. In this case, call agents, and there we go. Now, again, you can add more to this. You can put their email in, whatever it might be. In this case, it's just nice and simple. All right. And then we're going to test the step, and I'm going to go over to Slack now. Now, I've jumped into the Slack, and you can see that the notification has come through. So that's been set up successfully. Now, as you can see, it has this automated with this N8N workflow. We want to remove this. Let me move myself out of the way here. You're going to simply select add option, include link to workflow, and we're going to disable that. Now, the next thing we'll do is we're going to go back to the canvas, and what we want to add here is we want to have a background step, so a research step. We want to use Perplexity to do a bit of background research on the lead. So what we'll do is, let me just map this out here, HTTP request, and you will paste this link in here, and then we're going to put this to post, and now we'll need to grab our API key in Perplexity. So if so you'll jump into your Perplexity account, make sure you just add some credits in API billing, and then you're going to take the API key here. Let's copy this, and then let's jump back to our N8N. We'll enable send headers. Here we're going to have authorization, and then here you're going to put in bearer, and then you're going to paste in your API key. Oh, sorry, make sure this is correct. So it's capital. So bearer in capital B, and then you paste your API key in here. And then next thing we'll put in content type, and then we'll have it as application /JSON. We're going to add another parameter, and we're going to put that as accept, and then it's same as here, application JSON. Accept application JSON. Next, we'll click here, so send the body, and then JSON. And for specified body, we can change this to using JSON. And let's open this out. We're going to paste the following in. Let me open this back out. Okay. So the model we're using is Sonar. The system role is that we want the content to be detailed and accurate. And then what this is basically saying is that your job is to give me background information on the potential lead that's come through based on their name, their email, their company, and so on. So let me just map these fields in. Let's get rid of the name here, and then let's paste this in. First name, last name, email address, delete this here, and then let's put in email here. And then we have the company mapped. Okay, so we'll go back out of this, and then we're going to test the step, and there we go. So we have, this is executed successfully. We have a bit of a background on the person's role, Elon Musk, the company, Tesla. The last thing we want to do is just map this against the lead in our Google Sheet. So we're going to update row in the Google Sheet, update row, and then we're just going to, again, select the document, going to select the tab. We're going to identify by the email, just as we did last time. We're going to delete any steps or any fields that we're not updating. So it's just background in this case, and then we're going to map content here to the background, and we're going to match up the email here as well. And let's just test this step. Okay, so it says it's executed successfully. Let's go back to the sheet and just load this again. And there we go. You can see it's been updated here. Now, again, you can make this as detailed or as concise as you want. And if we go back to let's go back to the canvas. Let's zoom out really quick here. So again, as I said, this is more just a set event foundation. You can set this up as you like. So you can have your form be your job form on your website. You can have you can notify the team by email, via Teams. Rather than a Google Sheet, have this be your CRM, and so on. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to, sorry, let me go back out here. So what we want the trigger to be when this is up and running is Google Sheets. Let me move myself out of the way. And then the trigger that we would have is on row added. So what this means is when a new row is added, rather than us doing it manually here, anytime a new row is added, that would then trigger the workflow. So let's just connect this up. So select the document, select the response. You can leave this all as it is. And then what you would do then is you would delete these two, and then the trigger would start from here. So this would kick off your workflow. So again, this is more to give you a foundation. You can build this out as you please. And again, a lot more you can add, a lot more you can do in terms of what you're looking for here, in terms of the output with the email, in terms of what you're collecting. So you can get very creative with this to suit what you're